Welcome back to Taking Stock. I'm Pimm Fox. I'm joined by an expert in the world of packaged food. We have Alexia Howard from Sanford Bernstein. Alexia, all right, let's talk a little bit about Kraft and the Cadbury bid, because it kind of brings in Sara Lee, which we were just talking about. Can Kraft actually afford to buy Cadbury?
Well, I think it can, but it is going to be a bit of a stretch. It's a fairly significant deal. So they are sort of pulling all the stops to figure out how much debt can they take on without losing their investment grade rating. They're also maybe thinking about other levers that they could pull in order to sweeten the deal above the proposal that they already put on the table on Labor Day.
Now, there was a note, right, in the New York Post that ran, that talked about the possibility that Kraft would sell its Maxwell House coffee business. What portion of the total beverage business for Kraft is this? Something like 40%? Is that somewhere around there?
Yeah, it's not. They've got a bigger coffee business domestically and overseas.
Right, GFI as well as UBAN, right?
Yes, exactly. So, and they've got a lot. They've got Jacobs and the business over in Europe. So they've got a number of coffee brands globally, and Maxwell House is only a small proportion of it.
Do you think it's likely they're going to sell Maxwell House? Really? I mean, isn't it getting big in emerging markets?
It does. It has about 40% of its sales in emerging markets. Plus, because it's just a part of their overall coffee business, it's kind of hard to see how you could extricate just the Maxwell House brand from the rest of that business without seeing fairly significant distribution deleveraging and so on. So my sense is, if their backs were against a wall and they had to find the money to get the Cadbury deal done, maybe they think about it. But I'm not sure that that's the first part of the business that they would think to sell. All
right. What do you think they would sell then?
I wouldn't be surprised if over time they get rid of Oscar Mayer. If you're marching on your way to becoming the global sweet snacks player with all your cookies and crackers, and then maybe you acquire Cadbury.
Because they did the Danone biscuit acquisition,
so
right? The Lou brand.
So they basically become the global sweet snacks player, and we know that being the global salty snacks player has been very, very helpful for Frito-Lay. Once you've established yourself as that being your strategic direction, it's hard to really see where meat particularly fits in. I'm not sure that the meat companies in the US are really in a position to buy Oscar Mayer right now, but maybe over time that might be a better match for the brand.
What about the actual deal or the potential deal to acquire Cadbury? Why does Kraft want this?
Because it's subscale in chocolate right now. They've got some great brands: Toblerone, Suchard, Côte d'Or, Milka, which is the biggest chocolate brand in Western Europe, but they are subscale, and with the Mars Wrigley deal coming on, they're sort of increasingly being sidelined. They've also got this big cookies and crackers business, and acquiring or getting bigger in chocolate will obviously allow them to get a lot of distribution cost synergy with the cookies and crackers business. They could also consider selling their chocolate business, but they don't really want to do that because 40% of their own chocolate sales are in emerging markets, and that's where they want to grow. So they really have a strategic dilemma there, and Cadbury solves that.
If they manage to actually get this deal done, if they get to acquire Cadbury, what does that do to the U.S. business in terms of sweets?
I think they pick up the Cadbury gum business. If you remember, Kraft sold its U.S. confectionery business, Lifesavers and Altoids, to Wrigley in 2005. So at the moment, they don't have much in the way of confectionery in the U.S. They'd pick up the gum business of Cadbury. That's really the primary piece. Little bit of chocolate here and there, but Hershey would retain the rights to the Cadbury brand.
Because they make Cadbury here in the United States.
They do, and Hershey would keep that distribution license and manufacturing license.
So is the big deal here about distribution, particularly in Western Europe, for Kraft if they get the sweets business?
Absolutely. It's a play to get more exposure to emerging markets and to deepen their distribution density in Western Europe. So it's both of those things.
All right. Now, if indeed the deal does not happen, let's just use that as keep that in suspended animation for a moment. What about the shares of Kraft right now? Do you like them?
I do. Fundamentally, I think Kraft, the management team has the best visibility that they've had since Irene Rosenfeld came in as CEO in the middle of 2006 into, I think, a very good fundamental trajectory over the next 18 months. Commodity costs are finally coming down. The productivity improvements.
Cheese. This is cheese and milk, right?
Absolutely. And actually, now that the volumes in cheese in the consumer takeaway data last month, if you'd looked 2-3 months ago or even back into 2008, volumes were down double digits. Last month in cheese, they were up 21% in measured channels. Kraft's cheese business is incredibly responsive to changes in pricing, and the EBIT dollars tend to move accordingly. So it's all looking quite good right now for Kraft.
Are you seeing anything in terms of promotions or margins? I mean, because we've talked about the grocery store business with Scott Mushkin over at Jefferies, and he said a lot of the grocery stores, they're offering a lot of promotions just to get people in the door. Is that hurting margin?
It's certainly, I think it's going to play out that we will see increased promotional activity, and we're already beginning to see that across the board. However, if you look back over the last 30 years, the producer price index in packaged food has only turned slightly negative in 2 years out of those last 30, and even then it was only down 1.3% in 1998. So modest declines in pricing because of increased promotional activity, but not expecting massive rollbacks in pricing at this point.
All right, a little bit unfair. I'll just give you about 10 seconds or so. Just sweeten us a little bit on Hershey. What's your take on Hershey right now? Still muted?
A little worried. Commodity costs are still going up with cocoa and sugar, and the top line looks at risk. They're taking pricing up, and that's hitting the volumes very hard right now.
And that's really just a North American story when you talk about Hershey. All right. Thank you very much, Alexia Howard, expert in the world of packaged food. We're going to have to call on you whenever we hear anything going on with Kraft and this Cadbury bid. And who knows, maybe they'll sell that Oscar Mayer division. Maybe they're listening to you right now.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.